All right, maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but I don't think so. It's late at night, and earlier today I finished filming a video, 2 videos actually back to back, about Big Carrot and how I cannot help but see the ways that private equity, big ag, that produces 80% of the carrots in the United States, operates in a way that's extremely eerily similar to how big AI is operating, trying to put these data centers in all across the country, using massive quantities of water, forcing their will on people, exploiting rural communities, and then suing the shit out of people when they don't get their way, using their deep corporate pockets to oppress regular, ordinary people through the courts to try and force their plan on all of us. And then after I filmed those videos, I did a couple of videos about Stephen Miller's plan to put concrete concentration camps around the country, buying up warehouses with our taxpayer money, hundreds of millions of dollars spent on, I think overall it was more than $1 billion, but spending $129 million on a warehouse valued at $59 million, right? Huge waste, huge grift, huge corruption right at the forefront. And how the American people, because we organized and protested and pushed back and lawsuits were filed, DHS has given up their plan to warehouse hundreds of thousands of immigrants inside these metal and concrete boxes around the country. But it doesn't change the fact that huge quantities of public money was wasted trying to roll out this terrible plan. We're seeing in Hillsboro, Oregon, all across Oregon, actually, and all across the country, we're seeing local governments want to cram through AI data centers without trying to do an assessment of what's the environmental impact here, what's the livability impact, what's the opportunity cost for communities. We got to push these through, right? Donald Trump had an executive order that came out last year that was about expediting AI data centers. They're trying to force it on us before we can say, whoa, let's slow down and figure out if this is a good idea. They just want those contracts. They want to claim the property and they want to throw up these buildings as quickly as they can without anybody asking whether or not it should be done. It reminds me very much of the freight warehouse boom of 2020 to 2022 when we saw Prologis, and I'm going to talk about it endlessly because they built a giant, nasty, vacant freight warehouse that sits on the end of my street where my neighbors and I wanted a community center. They took 13 acres of valuable Portland real estate and they put in a giant freight warehouse that, like, Stephen Miller would have wanted to turn into a concentration camp. It sits empty. That is a tremendous opportunity cost for my neighborhood. Tremendous waste of a resource that could have benefited my community, and now instead is a piece of property that sits in the hands of some out-of-state billionaire, right? But at the time, our mayor, Ted Wheeler, fuck him forever, he said there was nothing he could do about it. He could not stand in the way of the rights of corporations to be able to build and be able to advance their businesses. Prologis is the single largest owner of warehouse land, industrial land in the Portland metro area. So, Ted Wheeler prioritized them over Portlanders, over the people of Parkrose and Argay Terrace. Just like we're seeing electeds in Hillsboro and Washington County prioritize AI and all of that over what the constituents there are saying, like, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want this. Our elected officials so often are bought and paid for by big corporations. The corruption, the graft is everywhere, Seeing not just members of the regime prioritize spending massive quantities of taxpayer money to build concentration camps, to force through AI data centers, and to allow big, giant ag private equity firms to exploit communities, but we're seeing it on a local level, on a state level. And I was watching earlier today the protests that have been happening down at the Moda Center in Portland, and I'm like, oh, look, here is yet another example of how it's all the same. It's all the same rich fucks using the same tactics, trying to get access to public money, our taxpayer money, that is supposed to be used to benefit us, to give us a better quality of life. Here in Portland, they're trying to use Prosper Portland money. They're trying to use PSEF money, that is climate resilience money, to renovate the Moda Center for an out-of-state billionaire and his sports ball team that plays 40 games here. They're here, like a couple of weeks a year. An out-of-state billionaire is saying that we have to spend $600 million of public money. And it's not just him, right? Out-of-state billionaire who made his billions through subprime loans, through exploitive, extractive, predatory loans. That's the guy that we should spend $600 million of public money on when we can't fund our schools. Tina Kotek, our governor, is insisting that we need to spend this money on a billionaire and a sports ball team rather than on things that the people want and need, rather on the services that would benefit us. They're firing teachers all over the state because Tina and the legislature cannot get their shit together to fund public education. But they've got $600 million of climate mitigation money and Prosper Portland money and other public money to spend renovating a sports stadium because a billionaire said that we need to do it. So that what? He will keep his sports franchise here in Portland? Fine, jog off. Has anybody done the math on whether or not this would be a good idea, whether this would give us a good return on our investment? Why is it? Because a billionaire says jump. Elected officials say, how high, sir? How high, sir? And how much public money should we fork over? Where did we get this notion? I mean, I did a video quite a while ago directly to Tina Kotek and a follow-up video talking about how governments investing public funds into sports stadiums is not a good, overwhelmingly is not a good return. And we've seen billionaire sports team owners who, again, no such thing as an ethical billionaire, over the last 2 decades insist overwhelmingly in the US and Canada that public money is used to renovate sports stadiums, to give them whatever they want, to court them into keeping their sports ball team in that city. And it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we bending to the demands of billionaires? If you looked at the protests here in Portland, you can see people were like, why are we using our money for this? What is Tina Kotek thinking? What is Mayor Keith Wilson thinking? They're thinking that the Portland Business Alliance, excuse me, Portland Metro Chamber, they've rebranded because they don't want anybody to know that they're Portland Business Alliance, because Portland Business Alliance has such a bad reputation for being predatory and prioritizing the interests of big business over Portlanders, over Oregonians. But Portland Metro Chamber is still Portland Business Alliance because they want it. So Keith Wilson is pressuring other members of city council. He's pressuring the county. We're seeing Tina Kotek breathing down the necks of county and local electeds because it has to be state money and city and county money that comes together to create this $600 million kitty to renovate a sports stadium for a sports team. And I understand that there are a handful of contractors who really want access to that public money, but is that supposed to be like trickle down? Like how is that supposed to benefit all of us? Our schools are underfunded. My husband's school district had to lay off 87 teachers, I think. I mean, there also was an independent city report that said the Moda Center renovations would only cost $253 million, which is still a staggering amount of public funds. But our governor and the billionaire owner of the Trailblazers say no, they want $600 million. For what? I think we're reaching a point where more and more people in this country are realizing that corporations, the super rich billionaires, and elected officials, a lot of times establishment Democratic elected officials, Tina Kotek is a Democrat, we all had to hold our nose and vote for, right? They are all working together and they're not working for our benefit. They're not using public money responsibly. They're using it to enhance the super rich. They're using it to enrich the super rich. They're using it for the benefit of the few in a way that harms all of us. Why is it? Why is it that we have been willing to settle for this all along? And could we please stop doing that? Could we please stop allowing private equity and corporations and sports ball franchises and the billionaires who own them dictate what happens with our public money? Can we have more open conversations about what tax money should be going for? It should be going for things that improve our quality of life. Our tax money should be spent on services that benefit us. Not premium suites, clubs, bars, and fan experience technology for the Moda Center. Why is my taxpayer money going to renovate premium suites for the Moda Center so that a predatory loan guy who made his billions ripping off poor people can keep his sports ball team in his losing sports ball team in Portland? It's all connected. It's all connected. Can we please stop doing this now? Can we decide that we've had enough with this? Can we start electing officials who work for us, not ones who work for big corporations?